Good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to High Top Sports Oregon. I'm Cody the Professor. We got Derek the Duck. He is out of the 24-hour psych rehab after going to the bounce house and seeing Oregon pretty much sputter and claw and just absolutely get a reality shock. Welcome to the Big Ten. That looked like Iowa and Wisconsin playing. I'm not sure what really happened. The only thing that I know that did happen was, the third quarter offense was absolutely irrelevant, like always. So we're keeping it consistent there. But first, we want to thank our proud sponsors, BetUS. Go ahead, check them out, betus.com. We'll do a little bit of gambling in between this video. Go check them out. Derek, how you feeling?
I'm feeling a lot better now after, like you said, my little hiatus. I was worried I was going to have to commit myself to the psych ward for a period of time there. But it was a fun game. I don't know if our viewers have ever gotten to go to Camp Randall. I would highly recommend going and checking it out if you guys ever get the opportunity. Obviously, when Oregon comes back in a couple of years, the fans are great, the environment's great. What was not great was Oregon's offense. It was tough to watch. The penalties were not great, very untimely, very uncharacteristic mistakes in that aspect, and they couldn't really get any rhythm going on offense. I know we were talking about before the show how Jordan James had a nice game. I think he has something like 25 for 140.
Yeah.
So he was highly effective, but outside of that, it was just like there was no consistency, no cohesiveness. Dylan Gabriel, he played all right, minus that red zone turnover, which ultimately ended up being a major factor in this game. But it was tough. But like you said, in a conference like this, you're going to have these games like this. And we knew in the Big Ten what we were signing up for. Personally, I thought it was going to be Iowa next year, but it turned out to be in Madison, Wisconsin this year. But probably not the last time we see these type of games as an Oregon fan coming up.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, so let's kind of get into this a little bit. I was kind of talking to Derek pre-show, and I kind of got a wild take for you. Listen, when Jordan James is getting 4.8 yards a tote, you keep feeding him. 25 carries is not enough. You give that kid 30, 40, 45 carries for this game. That way you get the win because he was pretty much only offense, minus a couple catches by Evan Stewart. He had 10 targets. Trayshawn Holden was ineffective and MIA. And then Terrence Ferguson had a couple nice catches, 3 for 52. I understand that Will Stein really likes to keep it balanced. But listen, when the running back's eating like that, and he was so close to popping, I don't know, 4 or 5 really, really big ones to the house, you just keep feeding them. It's an ugly game. You know that going into this. This is Big Ten football. This is not the Pac-12 anymore. Sometimes you have to toss your game plan out the door and just feed your back when he's running like that. Uh, you know, Noah Whittington, very ineffective, 3 carries for 5 yards. James obviously had a night, and when they're having a night like that, you just keep feeding them.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what I thought was kind of strange is, all week, one of the conversation pieces was, is Jordan James even going to be able to play this week? I know he was removed from the game at about halftime last week with a little bit of an ankle injury. Dan did address it this week, saying it was more proactive than anything else, just trying to ensure he's healthy. But he was on the injury report, excuse me, for the duration of the week this week. So, to see him come in and carry the ball 25 times, it was a bit of a shock in that sense. I was a little surprised we didn't see more of Noah Whittington. 3 carries, that is a little uncharacteristic just because, Oregon is one of those backfields in the country that tends to do a true carry split for the most part, and there was a mass discrepancy here. But just like you were saying, when they were running the ball and moving the ball, it wasn't every play that was going to be a home run. But kind of like we were talking about, Jordan James was about three. There were 3 different plays I can think of where he was right there from ripping off a massive, massive chunky yardage. And I understand it. If he is coming off an injury, 25 times, in reality, that's a lot in itself. If you're looking at it from a game plan perspective, obviously, I think we would have liked to see more. But it also depends on what that injury bug was looking like. But one thing actually I just thought about when we were talking about T-Ferg here is, if you really think about it, we're one Terrence Ferguson turf monster wide open bomb away from, a 7 points there. And if Dylan Gabriel moves the ball, 12 inches in front of his receiver as opposed to 12 inches behind him, we're talking about a 14-point swing. And then we're talking about a 31-13 game, looks a lot different in that aspect. I thought the Ducks defense played phenomenally. They gave up some yardage, absolutely, but you kind of knew that was going to happen. They really hunkered down in the red zone when need be. Um, so the defense absolutely played good enough to win. It was just those small mistakes on offense, man. That T. Ferg bomb, I think it was like a 40-yard bomb, and there was no safety over the top, and Terrence just ate dirt. That was 7 easy there. Like I said, Dylan Gabriel's red zone turnover. There is
That's
no
gotta
corner help on the boundary. Yeah, no corner help on the boundary. So I mean, if that ball is a completion, that's a touchdown.
that's gotta
And
stop.
yeah, and it's easy to look at it in hindsight and say, we could have done this, we should have done this. All of a sudden, X, Y, and I don't like playing that game, But in hindsight, I mean, we really were two very, very small mistakes away from this game looking entirely different, and kind of the tone of our conversation had taken a whole new direction.
Yeah, if Wisconsin could have mustered up any amount of good offense, this game is probably lost by Oregon. I just it's so uncharacteristic to really just have no third quarter defense. I mean, I don't know if you guys have scored in a third quarter this year.
23 points. We actually just looked it up at halftime with the Badgers. I was talking to some of their fans, and they're like, "Oh, you guys get the ball out of half," and I was like, "That is not our strong suit this
Yeah,
year." And lo and behold, we saw what happened.
yeah. Box score says it all. A goose egg. And listen, the defense did what the defense did. They held Wisconsin to 13 points. Ugo Angale is an absolute wrecking ball. 1 sack, four solos, and an INT, I believe. And boy, oh boy,
Yeah,
the
the
INT, the
game-winning
game-winning
INT.
INT, and you had to have it. But first, let's go and check out some betting for this week. Our proud sponsors, BetUS. Right now with BetUS.com, with the code YouTube150, you get 150% back on your first deposit, 125 on your second deposit, up to $2,000. Let's go ahead. Let's check some bets out. Let's go back to Wisconsin. We got Wisconsin, Nebraska. It's a 2.5 point swing. Wisconsin just fires their offensive coordinator this week, so Fickle's going to be calling the shots there. I kind of like that a little bit. I'm going to go under the 42.5 after seeing this week. I'm going to take the money line Wisconsin. Nebraska's on like a 4-game skid, and gonna take the points at the 3.5 for Wisconsin.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm kind of leaning the other way. I'm thinking
Okay.
the points for Nebraska, and my only logic here is Nebraska is on a bit of a slide. Um, However, they do have a competent offense. Once they get going, it is tough for Wisconsin to score points, regardless of what defense lined up on the other side. And I believe they are in Nebraska this week, so
Yep.
it's a wonderful opportunity for them to bounce back. For Wisconsin, it would be really easy to, kind of take a letdown game after last week against the number one team in the country. They had 2 weeks to prepare for it. You had a win, arguably the biggest win in regular season program history in front of you, and you choked it away. And now you're heading into a very hostile environment against a team who, don't get me wrong, also very hit and miss, very sputtery. However, they are dangerous. I like the Nebraska points here.
For sure. Go check out our proud sponsors at BetUS. We kind of flip flop. We usually agree, but we flip flop. So we'll see who's right next weekend. We'll keep tabs, and if one of us is wrong, that's okay because you get your money back. 150% on your first deposit, 125 on your second deposit, up to $2,000 with the code YouTube150. Let's get back to the game. All right, so defense shows up when it needs to, holding Wisconsin to to not a lot of offense. You get Wisconsin's um, offensive coordinator. He's gone. He's fired after this game. So that's always proud for a defense when you're getting offensive coordinators fired. I will say this: minus that one, I wouldn't say long, but 35, 40 yard completion down the sideline that Wisconsin had. That was about it. That was kind of their biggest play from the yard of scrimmage, and you know for the Ducks to go in to Camp Randall, a hostile environment. It is loud. I know people are like, "Oh, it's just Wisconsin." It's a loud, tough place to play.
It was very
Cold,
loud.
cold. It's a night game, which all the Wisconsin guys are drinking Busch Light at noon, so they're loud and rowdy by 7 p.m. kickoff. It
Mm.
was a welcome, definitely the biggest welcome to the Big Ten game that the Oregon Ducks have played, and I hope they learn a lot from this. But it's good that they have the
Mm.
defense that they have, keeping Wisconsin down to just the 13 points, and you learned a little bit about yourself as a team. You're not going to be able to score 35 every game in this conference. It's not going to happen.
No, and honestly, I think it's good for Oregon to get one of these games under their belt. It's easy to look at it from an outside perspective, and you're like, yeah, they did struggle with an inferior opponent. I'm not going to sit here and argue that that's true. That game had no business being as close as it was. However, what your team did show was the ability to bounce back and play through adversity. Because let's be real, I don't think any position group in that game last or on Saturday night would say that they played to the best of their ability. So that for them to be able to overcome that, get a tough win in a very hostile environment, like you said, cold, it was raining. It was a kind of a tough game, but they were able to pull it out, and I think that's kind of what's the most important here.
For sure, for sure. All right, guys, this is gonna wrap it up. Obviously, Oregon is on a bye, so get some guys healthy. Your injury list isn't too terrible, but guys are gonna be banged up after this. They're gonna feel this Monday and Tuesday that they just went through a war in Camp Randall. It was a very physical game. Hats off to the Wisconsin defense for holding Oregon, that high flying offense, to 16 points. They were physical. They were not intimidated at all by the speed. They were hitting. That was one of the harder hitting games that I have seen in a long time. There was a good one last week, Missouri and South
South
Carolina.
Carolina.
Yeah, that was a hard hitting game too. But Ugongle, I mean, absolutely popped the running back. He caught a little running back choice route and came across the middle, and Ungle just absolutely decleated that kid. So it was a good game. It was a fun game. Obviously not fun for Derek at the time, but one that you can go back and watch some good hitting football. When the season is over, I do that. I get a big bowl of chili and do that. But all right, guys, we will see you later. I'm Cody the Professor. We got Derek the Duck. Our proud sponsors, BetUS. Go check them out, betus.com, and we will see you later.